Welcome back to the Explorers Club, old friend. It is I, the leader of the Explorers Club, here ready to give you some advice on how to become a successful adventurer. These are some of the tricks I have learnt in my many expeditions around the world, which I hope will help you achieve the levels of greatness only given to the very best explorers on this green earth, myself included. What? Do you think they just hand out smoking jackets like this? These are earned, not bought! Anyway, the following tips and tricks should hopefully ease you into what can feel at times to be a very unfair game. But if you prepare well, try to account for any shortcomings, and have a little luck on your side, you too could find yourself with a statue made in your honour, and with a golden portrait to boot. But where to start? Let's try at the beginning, shall we? At the start of each expedition, you are offered an optional side quest for a bit of extra money upon completion. These are always generally a good idea to take on, as you never know who or what you may run into on any given adventure. This is especially true of the first expedition, as it sets you to find a village straight away and then a shrine. Not something to turn your nose up at. If you are unsuccessful with the optional side quest, the penalties seem to be minimal, if anything at all. Top tip! Snarf Rattle can be a bit of a bugger to kill. Only take on that mission with a crack squad of hunters. After your first expedition, depending on how that first expedition went, you may now find that you're the talk of the town, and with this popularity you should find that a multitude of prospective adventurers want to join you on your next trek into the unknown. But who should you pick? Personally, I go for anybody who can help me manage my resources, either by giving bonuses to sanity for consuming certain food, or by giving any advantages to any common situations you may come across on any expedition. An example of this would be to have a translator in your group, so you are allowed to stay in any villages you may come across. Top tip! Try and get as balanced a group as possible when it comes to the dice they carry. As wonderful as it may sound to have a group full of attack dice, you actually miss out on some very powerful combinations when you have no defense or utility die available. When purchasing your equipment for the trek, always prioritize food first. Take as much as you can possibly afford to take, but leave yourself a little extra money for a couple of other essentials. Second priority, in my humble opinion, would be to stock up on rope and torches. These are both relatively cheap items which stack high and have a decent trade-in value if you have an abundance of them. Great if you find you're a little short on good tradable items when trying to negotiate a cleansing with a local shaman for your sexist, racist and cannibalistic soldier. Trust me on this one. Climbing gear and machetes also have their uses, but they are less useful compared to rope and torches. You need a hell of a lot of machetes just for one expedition if there is a lot of jungle on the map, and you shouldn't be needing to climb that many hills to warrant wasting space on climbing equipment all the time. But I shall come on to that more later on. If you can afford and hold these items without giving up too much bag space, you would be hard pressed to find a better start to an expedition. But if you do find you have a little bit of money left, there are some items which need an honourable mention. Optional extras if you will. Dynamite may seem to be a one-use item, but couple that up with a utility dice in combat and you suddenly have a very powerful multi-attack which can help you beat down on those pesky natives a little quicker if need be. First aid kits can help tidy up any nasty wounds you may pick up on your travels, but remember, there are other ways to heal your party members, so it's not worth stocking up too many and wasting that valuable storage space. And a camping tent can be a little lifesaver if you ran out of sanity with no way to quickly recuperate it. This isn't to say that the other items you can purchase aren't of any use at all. I just find these items more useful than most. Mix them up, experiment with your kit and see what works for you. Top tip! There is no reason to leave any money in the pot for the next expedition unless you have at least bought all of the essentials. You never know. There might not even be another expedition after this one. So, you have made it to the start of your expedition, but what to do first? Personally, I like to climb a hill to get an extended view of the surrounding area. This should be done whenever you find your natural field of vision has been obscured, either by thick jungle or big bloody mountains. This would be the only time I will ever climb a hill, unless they are surrounding an undiscovered point of interest or you're trying to outrun a flood. It is high ground after all. This is a good rule of thumb for any undiscovered regions within your playing area, especially since there are no visual clues as to what could be in a certain region. It's best to check for yourself. Now, points of interest. It is important to discover as many points of interest as you can without putting the party too far out of the way in any given area, because the more things you find, the quicker you earn a region point. Region points are spent on upgrading your Trek members, which at level 2 or 3 region points spent will have an extra die added to their arsenal. This can be an overlooked advantage for any party shy on a decent amount of variation of dice to play with. Throughout every explorer's life out in the wild, there will be times when you may happen across great danger, either by the local wildlife or natives to nature itself. While there are ways to tackle each incident directly, it is beneficial in the long run to avoid obvious danger as much as possible. Now, this may mean that you have to go the long way around a mountain range, or maybe even skirt along the outside of a swamp that floods periodically, but remember, slow and steady wins the race. Yes, as it stands, it would appear that the adventurers set against you seem to be immortal, as nothing slows them down, but getting home in last place is better than not getting home at all. With that being said, here's some other pointers for you. When volcanoes erupt, any jungle caught in the immediate area will definitely go up in smoke. Any jungle adjoined to the jungle on fire will be set alight. Avoid the area at all costs. It should burn out in a couple of days. If a swamp area has a geyser within it, the whole area will flood. Be very careful not to be cut off from where you're heading or having your escape route taken away from you. Yes, the water will recede within a few days, but by that point it could be too late. Avoid mosquito-infested areas like the plague unless you have no other choice or you are only a few days away from the Golden Pyramid. If a Trek member gets bitten and infected and you aren't able to get medical treatment to them quickly, it's curtains for them. It takes a lot to anger the natives to the point where they want your head, but it can happen if you loot a little too much on your adventure. If this happens, they will send out war parties periodically to hunt you down. Although not the biggest combat challenge by themselves, if you have an ill-prepared party coming up against a new group every few turns, you will soon run out of luck. Best to keep them on your side as long as possible, eh? All animals have an aggro chance, and you won't know how many creatures are in the group until you engage them, so remember this. You can always flee! If you think your opponents are going to overpower you easily, just run away. Yes, you may lose items, or sanity is a penalty, but better that than your life. Or your level 3 cook. I'll never see those 6 region points again. Oh, Pierre. So, that leads me to a top tip. It's better to play defensively and be caught on the offensive than to play offensively and be caught on the defensive. That was a bloody mouthful. Right then, so you've got the perfect group. You are absolutely stocked up to the gills with the right items to get you through the trek, and you've managed to avoid all the unnecessary perils thrown your way up to the point of finding a shrine. No doubt packed with riches beyond your wildest dreams. What do you do next? Grab the gold and run? Not on your Nelly. Have you not seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? There's always a catch. By all means, loot away. Grab as much gold as you can carry when entering shrines, but keep this one tip in mind. Make sure you are on the right side of the shrine for the direction you want to take after looting the shrine. Whatever curse befalls you after cleaning out the treasure chamber, it will always start on the hexagon the shrine was on in the first place. This is especially essential if a bottomless pit starts or a flood chases you, as they happen as soon as you start to move. I know Padge has been caught out on this a couple of times. Bloody idiot. And then it's time to move on to the Golden Pyramid, ending your journey into the unknown, hopefully with untold wealth and fame to boot. And as you arrive back to the entrance of the Explorers Club, you will undoubtedly be met with hundreds of adoring fans, ready to welcome you back to civilization. Surely that's the end of the matter? Well, not quite. You get to pick a medal! The same rule applies here as it does with choosing your Trek members. Medals which offer you a generic advantage will fare you much better than one which has more of a niche use. For example, Impetus, which reduces the base sanity cost for any movement, would be much more handy than, say, Jungle Explorer, which reduces the sanity cost of moving through jungles. You're always going to move, but not always through jungle. You see what I'm saying? Top tip! There are perks available which may be of more advantage depending on what explorer you're playing. Although what I said before is a good rule of thumb, if your trek is short on combat dice and you are offered the Ruffian perk, which gives you access to a combat die, take it. And then you do it all over again. 6 expeditions to become the most revered explorer in history. This advice would carry you over to whichever region you decide to explore, be it jungle, drylands or desert. Speaking of desert, this leads me to my last top tip. When starting off in the desert, you can fill up with as much water as you can carry from your ship. Do so, as you won't know if you can easily pick up more, and you can always throw away any excess water when you start to find better items to have in your inventory, such as loot. Well, there you go. Hopefully this tips and tricks guide will help you with your adventuring without giving too much away. The beauty of this game is discovering what is out there in the first place and finding a way to deal with it yourself. But this should definitely get you off in the right direction at the very least. My final bit of advice to you is to play each explorer to their strengths and to form a party around their original Trek members. If you have every explorer taking an English and Scottish soldier along with a donkey and a cook, things will get stale pretty fast. Keep it fresh for yourself and the experience will last a lot longer. Now go explore! Adventure awaits!